Hey everyone, welcome back today to Pripyat and part 6, which is the final episode here of the mini-series, though not so many anymore. But anyways, yeah, today is the final build, and we are going to be wrapping up the series by building the cargo train yard here, which was located right outside of the Chernobyl power plant, which finding pictures of this and was like pretty much impossible. Like, here is one photo here of it. As you see, it's kind of messy looking. I'm sure it's ordered and everything. Obviously, it had to be. But it kind of looks like a bunch of random building supplies, materials, and just thrown together. And that's more or less what I tried my best here to replicate. But yeah, as I was saying, finding out what this area was like back then was pretty difficult. And the only reason I found that single picture there was thanks to someone on Instagram who was talking to me and gave me a bunch of resources, and one of those, there was 2 pictures, and that was all. 2 pictures of this area. Because if you go on Google Maps or Google Earth today, this area is completely different. And of course, you know, I say that kind of with everything now, but I mean that differently than normal. Because normally it's just like, you know, something's covered in trees, whatever, it's falling apart, stuff like that. But with it, in this instance, it's because this area has since, like, in the whole area of Chernobyl and Pripyat, this is probably the one area in Chernobyl that has been frequently, I shouldn't say frequently, but the most visited by humans. And that's because this is the area in which they worked on the initial sarcophagus for covering up the reactor. And then recently, when they went back and built that huge dome that currently sits on top of Chernobyl, they also built that here. So if you go today on Google Maps, I'll throw up a picture here of it, you'll see what kind of looks like a construction site, I guess. Initially, when I was first, starting out building the series, and the first episode being the Chernobyl power plant, I was looking at that and I couldn't really tell what it was, because it's kind of like the area just looks very undetailed. Because Google Maps doesn't take super highly detailed satellite shots of locations in like Eastern Europe and Russia, so it was hard to tell exactly what that was. And finally, I was like, it's probably, or at least I should say, it kind of clicked in my head when I was thinking more about the area and Chernobyl, everything. That I was like, okay, this probably had to be where they built the recent little sarcophagus thing in order to cover up Chernobyl. And that is in fact what it is. So it's a construction site for that particular dome. So what you see there now is totally different, and it's almost impossible to see the leftovers of this particular little train cargo area. And if you look closely, you'll see hidden in some trees and stuff, and very, very hard to tell, like I said, but you'll see maybe it's usually the shadows that give it away. I see that you can see the shadows of like some cranes sticking up, because I don't know if it's just like the cranes are too small, or if they're kind of rusting away and kind of blending into the background. They're like a lot of things that I've noticed in building this and looking around on the maps. There's a lot of stuff that's hard to see, but if you look really closely, you'll actually see the shadows, because kind of just that dark black sticks out against the green or the dirt, whatever color it may be, but it sticks out much better than the actual crane building, whatever it may be. So yeah, I've kind of learned to rely on it for a few things in the city, to rely on looking at shadows, which is not something that I thought I'd be doing. But yeah, really, when it comes to something like this, when everything is just so overgrown and the area's obviously changed so much since back then, it really helps to use every little thing that you possibly can. But anyways, so as I was saying, this area is what I said, looks kind of just like random building supplies and materials just thrown about. So I basically used every single little prop that I had available to fill in this area. So yeah, you got the metal I-beams, the pipes, some concrete, some pallets, wood, everything. Just, yeah, like literally, like I said, pretty much absolutely everything that could fit in this area I used. Used a couple different cranes. This one here, this one, like the cranes that were actually here were ones that or similar to the ones that I'll place down in a second after this one here. But yeah, I don't know, just to change up the look a little bit, I used this one as well. And then what was kind of cool was this one was really easy to, as you can see, just move the actual, I guess, crane part. I could literally move it wherever I want, and it wasn't actually connected to the rest of the asset. Because frequently with a lot of props that I try and do similar things, I just noticed that there's pretty much the asset is completely tied together. Like the vertices are all connected, or I don't really know the technical term, but that's more or less the case. So when you go into procedural objects and try and move stuff, there's few parts that are actually completely detached from the entire asset. So in most cases, if I were to try and move that crane around, it would drag and distort the entire asset, which when I was doing that, I was like, let's just see if it's possible. Probably not. But yeah, I was pleasantly surprised that I was actually able to do that, because it certainly looks a little better having them spaced out differently, so they're not all evenly spaced as they would have been if I didn't, mess around with it a bit. But just placing some of the trains here with the cargo, just wood, pipes, whatever. Just trying to fill up the area, because I'm pretty sure I actually scaled this area down a bit. It's hard to say exactly, because like I said, I saw 2 pictures of this area, and it wasn't of the entire part. It was like at most maybe like 3/4 of the area was showing at any given time. There's a lot of it was cut off, so it's hard to gauge exactly how large this area is. But regardless, even if it is larger, like this is pretty much the extent of like the size that I should make this in game, because obviously there's limited number of props, and I definitely pushed the limit on reusability for all these props. I mean, a whole lot of copying and pasting, as you can see right there, just those red pipes, just pasting them over there, those pipes, moving them over. I do go back, I think it's off camera, that I recolor those red pipes, because they do kind of stick out a lot, whereas the rest of the props aren't. Like the orange ones kind of, but for the most part nothing sticks out too much, with the exception of that kind of red color. So I think I changed 2 of those. I do leave one the bright red, but again, just trying to make it look as different and less repetitive as possible. But yeah, is the other crane that I was talking about. This is the one that's more similar to the one that actually existed then. A little different nonetheless, but still more similar. And again, I'm trying to move it around, which here you can see that it leaves that black looking like shadow area where the crane part actually was. And like that's okay, because I mean, yeah, it doesn't move the rest of the crane when you slide that piece around, so that's perfectly fine to have that tiny little shadow there. If anything, it adds maybe some little detail so it's just less red, I guess, just a less solid color. But yeah, I mean, at this point building this, I was kind of getting tired of just copying and pasting everything. And there were a few buildings here which I nearly forgot to place down, because thankfully these buildings are big enough that I place a few and they take up some space, so it's not just completely a bunch of props. But there really aren't a lot of Soviet-looking small industrial buildings. There's a decent number of larger ones for sure, but the smaller ones, like little warehouses like these, like, I mean, these are more or less generic warehouses. Like, they could easily be in a Soviet city, but they could also easily be in your American city or really anywhere else. So, you know, there's always a bunch of props in buildings like that where they kind of just are generic enough that they can really be fit in any type of city. For the most part, of course, there's exceptions depending on the asset. But yeah, same thing goes with the commercial buildings, except even more so, I'd say. I mean, later in the episode, I may mention it, but there's one particular area, which when we get there, because the first half here is working on Chernobyl, and the second half is building the last little block in Pripyat. But there's an area there in which it's like a small little, what I would call a shopping center. It's not really, but you know, it more or less functions as one, just a small little group of a bunch of little commercial buildings kind of aligned like a shopping center, more or less. I don't know. I really don't know what else to call it. But yeah, like I just didn't have enough buildings to make it, so I only placed a couple down, and one of which I've used probably 5 or 6 times already in the city. And it's just because there's so few small commercial buildings, like restaurants or, you know, I guess retail, whatever it may be. There's just very few Soviet buildings like that, and it really leaves you no choice but to just use the same few good ones over and over again. Which, I mean, I messed around with trying to use some of the vanilla ones, but yeah, they just don't really look right because, you know, I mean, Soviet architecture from the 80s is a very particular look. I mean, it's really easy to see what it is. Like, if the instant you see something from the Soviet Union from the 80s, or really any time 70s, 80s, it's, you know, easily recognizable. So when you place a building that's not quite that, it just seems out of place. So, but anyways, that's, like I said, that's later in the video. But I guess I just kind of figured I'd talk about something else besides the just endless supply of copying and pasting and placing down a bunch of props as I'm doing still on screen, which, I mean, I know a ton of people really love these type of builds, even though they're quite repetitive. And personally, I do kind of too. When I see other people do this type of stuff, I think it's definitely satisfying to see such a large area filled in with really like what looks like a ton of different type of, you know, props, you know, whatever, different building materials, you know, whatever this may be. But you know, as I already said, I'm probably using 10 different assets here, maybe a couple more. I don't know, it's hard to say, but you know, it is definitely satisfying at the end to see the entire area filled in with so few props, but what looks like a decent amount, because you still make little additions and subtractions here and there to make it a little different, so it doesn't look as repetitive, and, you know, rotating some things different ways, whatever it may be. But anyways, one thing I definitely want to talk about is, since we are getting back into Berlin Noir after this series is wrapped up, which I still am going to release, of course, a cinematic video for this, possibly 2. It's hard to say because I do have some cool ideas in my head for some cinematic videos, but I'm not entirely sure if I'm going to be able to do my one cool idea. I'm not going to say what it is, because if I'm able to do it, then it's, like I said, it's going to be pretty cool, I'd say. Definitely no one's ever done this, and if not for Pripyat, then I can probably try and do it for Berlin Noir at some point, because it'll probably be easier for that, given that I think there are definitely more videos from back then in Berlin versus good video footage of, you know, Pripyat or Chernobyl, which, that's all I'm going to say. that doesn't give anything away. But yeah, anyways, what I was going to say is, since we are getting back into Berlin Noir, I'm going to put up a poll on YouTube at the exact same time that this is being released, or to the made public on YouTube. And that's just going to be a poll for basically what you guys want to see next in Berlin Noir, what you want to see built next, because there's still, there's still a lot to do in that city, obviously. And if you're new to this channel, or perhaps just subbed on recently because of the Pripyat series, go ahead and check out, I don't know, perhaps the latest video of Berlin Noir, or the city overview, which I believe is episode 15 of the series. Gives you a nice little overview of what was built up to that point, but even since then, a decent amount of stuff has been built. But yeah, so the poll is just gonna ask, I'm probably gonna throw up 3 or 4 different ideas or locations of what I plan on building in the near future. And basically just whatever you guys want to see built first. And like I said, that should be up right now. So if you're watching this, don't forget to check out the poll after this video. But anyways, so now we are getting into the final part of this episode. And that is this small block here, which is, I'm pretty certain, the last completed block in Pripyat. I mean, as in real life, not for the series, although I guess also for the series. But yeah, I say that not only because this is the furthest completed block back in the city, but also because, look at this picture here. You'll see that there's absolutely no trees. And that picture is actually, it's actually from a video, so I screenshotted a video, so the quality's a little poor. Sorry on that, but that is actually from 1988, so, about 2 years after the city was evacuated. And you can see in that photo that there's, like, pretty much no trees. Just some grass, which looks to be dying. But aside from that, it's entirely open. So, yeah, building that is a little weird because, I mean, it looks almost incomplete. Under detailed, whatever, because it just feels weird to leave so much just open space without any sort of trees or small bushes, which I definitely do place some, and more than are seen in that particular picture. But because I consider the fact that, I don't know when that picture or video was taken. Could have been in the winter, summer, whenever, who knows. So, perhaps it's possible that the trees there were, had shed their leaves, even though the vast majority of trees in this area were like some sort of pines, at least, or different trees that don't necessarily shed or drop their leaves in the winter. But even looking at that picture, if you look in the background into the other blocks of the city, you can see a ton of trees still. So that makes me think that, it's probably not in the winter, and that's probably just how it was, that there were at the time, since I don't know, like I tried looking up like the timeline of when each little block here was built, or even estimates, or just anything really, and I couldn't find a single piece of information on how the city developed. I'm sure it's got to be somewhere out there, but also, like, it's like initially when I was looking up resources for this, pictures, videos, all that type of stuff, I really couldn't find anything. And the only reason I was able to find half the stuff that I had for this series was from people on Instagram who helped me out with some links and stuff. And half the time, Google would just almost refuse to open the links they sent me just because they had a .ru web, since it was a website from Russia. And I mean, that's definitely has to be a reason why it's so difficult to find pictures and videos of the city from back then, just because I guess being in America, Google just wants to show me non-Russian sites, I suppose, which is a bummer because that's where all the good stuff is. Because yeah, everything else that I was looking up on my own on Google was mostly just post-disaster pictures, which is not very useful. But anyways, kind of forgot what I was trying to talk about there, but go back to the main point being that this area is a little weird considering that there are just so few trees, and I do place more trees down, like I said, than there are in real life. But really, aside from that, I just try and make the ground texture look a little less, green and perfect. Because I said before that, Pripyat was a very neat city. Obviously, it was a pretty new city, but the grass in the city definitely tended to run a little wild based on all the pictures that I saw. The trees were well maintained, since a lot of them are really small and younger trees anyways, such as in the newer blocks, such as this one. And also, there's another one that I built off camera, which is, I guess, off to the left of the screen here, which you'll see that in the cinematic. But there's, aside from the trees, they look nice, and just a general cleanliness of the whole area. Really, the grass was the only thing that kind of was a little overgrown and looked a little more wild. So that's a little hard to mimic in game on such a large scale. I in smaller areas, I can certainly place down grass tufts, and there's plenty of nice assets on the workshop. But to do that on such a large scale, it would it'd be pretty difficult to do. And also, it would look bad when you zoom out and have cinematic videos of the whole area, because all those grasses, some of them are props, some of them functions as trees, but all those assets are really finely detailed. And because of that, their LOD kind of vanishes to the oftentimes pretty ugly looking LOD fairly quickly. Some of the newer assets definitely have improved this, but most of the assets I'd say on the workshop, you have to be pretty close to really see the detail and really make the grass look half decent. So really the only option for me on such a large scale here was just to use decals. And I only used one decal, being just the circular dirt decal, which I've used plenty of times. Definitely one of my favorite decals for just kind of roughing up an area. But having grass tufts like the vanilla tufts that come with the game, that does add some of that roughness. But I mentioned in a previous episode that I got rid of those, I think in the third episode, I believe. And that's because the particular paths that I was using back then had lots of issues. And eventually I moved on to these paths, which are really nice because they don't have any issues like the other ones where you wouldn't have grass tufts poking through, and you don't have where you connect the intersections of the paths, you don't have any sort of glitches, which all the other paths that I was using and that are pretty much on the workshop that fit in this type of era in the Soviet Union, they just had too many glitches and the tufts would poke through. So that's why I unfortunately had to get rid of those, which was a bummer. I would have liked to have kept those. If I had this path from the beginning, then I would have just used this across the city. But the creator released the path about halfway through the series, so the very first block I built in Pripyat has one version of a path, another one has a completely different, and then the rest have this type. So I just kind of chalked that up to the fact that the city was expanding, so it's certainly reasonable that they had different materials and resources available to them over the years. And, it probably wouldn't have changed too much, the sidewalk style, but that's more or less why I'm leaving the other paths the same as I built them originally. And also just because I just don't really think it's worth it to go back and delete all those paths and then figure out where they were and replace them with these paths. But we're getting close-ish to the end of this pretty long episode, 30 minutes. I know I keep saying all these episodes are pretty long relative to my normal, which is 20-25 minutes, I'd say. But I don't know, some of you seem to actually like the longer episodes, which is nice. I mean, I try my best every single time to keep these to under 25 minutes or 26, 27 at most, and that was pretty much impossible without cutting out too much, which even though, you know, I didn't want to cut out that much, I still had to every single episode. And that also isn't including the fact that a ton of this city, or not a ton, but a pretty sizable portion of the city was built off camera, which you might see in some cinematic shots at the end of, you know, this video and the previous ones, but you'll see most of that in the final cinematic video, which I'll be releasing soon. And yeah, I don't know, it's I'm glad the city is wrapping up. I've said already that I'm pretty excited to get back into Berlin Noir, and I definitely enjoyed building a Soviet city for the first time. It was definitely a unique change, and there's whenever when I first started playing this game, like, you know, back when this game first came out in 2015, I feel like Soviet style tenement apartment buildings popped up on the workshop pretty quickly, and I remember using them in American cities just because they looked cool. I mean, they didn't really fit, you know, obviously an American city too well, but I remember using them a lot. And I still do like that, you know, the style of the apartment building looks cool when you build so many blocks that are repetitive, but, you know, it's obviously historical. And I don't know, it's pretty cool nonetheless. But either way, I hope you all enjoyed this series and this episode as well. And yeah, like I said already, make sure to check out that poll that I'm posting regarding Berlin Noir. And yeah, I will see you all in a future episode of Berlin Noir, and look forward to the possibly 2 cinematic videos of Pripyat coming up in next week. So see you then.